his
So
half
sorry.
hour.
Someone at work wanted me to do work, and
No,
it's quite annoying.
no. That is not allowed, sir.
I
That
was
is.
highly offended by the notion that I should do work while working.
I mean, seriously. And I mean, Nick and I kind of got into reffing down here as a lead-in unintentionally to you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
And the whole idea of the burn bomb contact with Yakamakis and just the lack of yellows that were really the lack of conversation that was happening with Filip Dujic and the players. Communication. Now, when you're teams, or I guess this is it's a two-pronged thought here. So let me see if I can parse it. When it comes to going into a match, when you are a center ref or with your friends who are center refs, do you have conversations leading into matches about how you're going to call a game stylistically? Do you sit there and I'm going to be even-handed about it? What are those conversations like, if they do even exist going into matches, about how you're going to call a match?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be part of your pregame to kind of go through your style of refereeing.
Mm-hmm.
If you may need to adjust that style for the specific game you're about to encounter. I think we've talked about this a lot when it comes to Philly games or Red Bulls games, where yes, you do have to approach the match with a understanding that these teams play in a way that does increase the amount of let's just call them tense moments within a match. So yeah, you should be having that conversation before the match. But I mean, you're also not going to change completely. I mean, John, do you expect Atlanta United to become a bunker team?
Yeah.
No. So the way you see in referee matches is not going to change that much, at least game to game. Again, there are things that you might be looking for. There are things that you need to personally be attuned to. Certainly, the same way that Atlanta United was aware and attuned to the fact that Tyler Miller comes off his line a lot. But because not every match is consistent.
Yeah.
Not every match is the same, right? So yes, again, you're not going to change your style, your general approach, but just as Atlanta United is not changing their style, philosophy, or approach, their tactics do change. Again, perfect example, and they talked about this after the game. Atlanta United, we don't typically go that direct, right? But we saw that with DCU's high line, our speed on the wings and Yaku's speed up top, and the fact that the goalkeeper is likely to come off their line, that was a specific thing that team does that Atlanta United needed to adjust to. So from a referee perspective, there are certain things that teams do that you have to be aware of, that you have to be attentive of. And so no, you're still trying to be consistent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Atlanta United is going to, be different than New York Red Bulls. Atlanta United is different than Seattle, even. Inter Miami is a very bad team, but that doesn't mean that they don't deserve, your attention as a referee to understand how they play the game, to look for certain things or look out for certain things. I mean, Jason's talked about it ad nauseum on the show. We do not protect star players. Now, we can get into the philosophical debate if that should happen or not. But I think very much so this year that referees have, and I know it's not every game, so please don't get on to me, but there has been a noticeable improvement in referees giving persistent infringement yellow cards or, yellow cards about stopping promising attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been something that's clearly been noticed by the league. And they have adjusted to that. Because again, you're also going to adjust throughout the season where, you know what, we're actually seeing a lot of this type of thing going on, right? It could, I think the biggest one is like the shirt pulls on stopping a promising attack. We've seen a lot of that this year. In the beginning, they weren't quite as prompt in giving out those yellow cards. They have been now. They've been very upfront about that. So consistency, yes, I understand what you're saying, but not every match, not every game, not every team is going to be the same thing.
John, you're getting attacked by robots, man.
I am.
I don't know. Maybe, might be mine. Might be my signal that's going.
Okay. Duck out and come back in.
No, I can hear you clearly now, but
oh, it's the weather here. The weather here and the weather there are the same. So
yeah, but look, officiating it's a tough business, right? And I firmly believe that one of the key issues that we have in this country, and I've said it many times, is we the fans from the youth game up are damaging the pipeline of referees working their way up to the top tier. And so the ones that we have to work with are essentially it's all we can work with. I'll put it that way. Philosophically, yes, we will have differences on whether star players should be protected or not. The main issue that I have is teams like Philly, teams like the Red Bulls, St. Louis. They are essentially daring the referee to affect the game early. And that's the challenge that I have, is that, and that's the issue I have from a consistency standpoint, is if a team is daring you as an official to change the game, take them up on it. Okay, cool. I have no problem affecting the game. But then the poor ref gets hit with, well, the referee's making it all about them, and they want to be the star of the show.
Ref show.
Yeah, it's like the team. And I wish that the referees could be more open about it and just say, look, Philly was daring us to essentially to change the game by their use of physical play. And it's, we had to essentially take them up on it and call them on it. And I think that's the only way it changes, is, by having that kind of transparency. And I think that's the one thing that's missing from pro now is I hate their stupid little show where they come out and say, yep, we screwed up in Atlanta for the 18th time this season, but we're not really going to do anything about it. But yeah, this is what happened. I think we really need to have more transparency when it comes to pro on why these calls take place, and and really have it where the official needs to answer for some basic things, and have the ref give the ref the room to be honest and say, look, number 9 was being extraordinarily physical, and dropping back and clipping heels, and it was starting to get dangerous because he's raking Achilles. How long should I let that go unpunished? I had to make a call. I made the call. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks, but we appreciate it, and you're still going to get a stick, but at least the official has the ability to protect themselves by making their own calls and making it known to everyone else. That's just my 2 cents on the matter.
Well, and yeah, that you're completely right in that. I think pro being a little bit more transparent would be great. I also, again, wonder what I would like to see transparency in the process of review and coaching of referees, because that's something that we've talked a lot about, where we're not sure what I don't even want to say punishment, but the course of action to correct the mistake is. I don't necessarily think that referees should be banned from, or sit out a game because they messed up a procedural issue, or depending on what it is, or they missed a penalty kick. So that's not why you sit a referee out. But what is the course of action to say, okay, well, this is how we as an organization review matches with referees, because they look at the tape just like a team does, and how we're trying to get this referee to understand, why this is something that we want to be called, or why this should have been called a penalty, or why there should have been a yellow card. So that, I'm with you, Nick. I would like to see more transparency in just the overall, this call was made for this way, but I would like to see what that process for course correction is as well. Two things we won't get.
No, we're not getting it, unfortunately. Look, and that's the thing is, I get how hard it is to be a ref. I understand. It
is the hardest sport to referee. I truly mean this, because there are 3 guys out there, maybe 4. Only one of them has any real decision-making power. That's so different than any other sport that we see. We just watched an NBA Finals that, I don't think there was any real referee problems there. Granted, the Nuggets kind of put that out of any doubt. But you got 3 guys out there making calls. They all have their own autonomy to make these calls. Soccer, we have one dude. You're gonna miss things.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the top tier, right? You have someone who's in their 40s or 50s running with people who, these like 22, 23 to 28-year-olds, and who are in peak physical condition. You're going to be, late, with regularity.
And should there be, like we've seen in the National Hockey League, should we have 2
No,
refs?
I'm sorry, I don't think so. I think that would bring more inconsistency to the game. I really do. Go watch a high school game.
I've been there, brother.
Nick, you know what the best compliment I've ever received about my refereeing was?
What is this?
I was refereeing a 16 ECNL match, and there was a breakaway going down the opposite side, and I was sprinting my little butt off to try to get to the other side. And I passed a kid on the field. I passed a player, and he goes, "Oh, you're fast." Best compliment I ever got. And I was like, still got it.
That's right. That's right.
And look, it's like, good. I could kind of keep up with 16-year-olds. Great.
Nice. I don't know if you saw this, Bart. In Soccer America, Mike Woitala came out with an article, and the title of the article, it's an op-ed from Woitala, and he went into the LAFC Leon match, quoting Stu Holden after Sifu kicks Lucas Romero from behind, swings his right arm at neck level, plows through him. Stu Holden says that's a smart tactical foul in the moment. And then Romero had received the ball, and Holden says it's not a bad yellow to take. So, using a cheap shot in an incident he himself described as ball is gone, he knows the ball is gone, he's trying to take him out. Condoning of foul play comes frequently from soccer broadcasters who embrace euphemisms such as professional foul, emergency break, tactical foul. Also prevalent is ignorance of the rules, according to Woitala. Earlier in the match, Deno Maldonado was competing for a ball with Alvarado. Doesn't get a call. Then Walter Lopez yellow cards Maldonado later. Holden says it was a makeup call, an evening out of things. Are soccer commentators, do refs deserve better from TV commentators, do you think?
The only thing I respect about Alexi Lalas is that he went and got his referee certification and has refereed, not high level, but I think he's refereed some MLS Academy games.
Yeah.
Nothing against these players or former players who are now commentators, but they, as players, have a vastly different view on the game, which is the view that matters most in the commentary box. Let's just, that's fine. But they don't know what it's like to be a referee. They have no real formal training as a referee. Some of them probably have, I'm sure they understand the laws of the game from a application standpoint, but there's theory to the laws of the game that they're not instructed on. There is interpretations of the laws of the game that each specific league even kind of divvies out. Now, I'm sure that they've been given the documents or the presentations that the league gives to the teams beforehand of like, okay, we're calling these fouls or not. But yeah, no. They're parroting what they have always been told or felt as players and not looking at it from a referee lens in that perspective. But again, that's their job.
Yeah. It's,
Well,
I
and
have
here's
thoughts.
Woitala. Well, so let me give you Woitala's thoughts about what
Mhm.
a commentator should do, Nick. Then you can dive in. And the fifth one, Bart already mentioned. Bart said, referee some soccer games, then decide if you're still comfortable praising foul play. Woitala says, read the rule book first and foremost. Two, read for opining on whether it was or was not a foul. 3, if you do jump the gun and the replay refutes your knee-jerk speculation, this is Woitala talking, just admit you got it wrong instead of embarrassing yourself more by contradicting the up-close, slow-motion, high-def replay we're seeing with our own eyes. And then 4, after a ref's call, share what the rule is with your audience by reading or accurately paraphrasing the section. It should be a big part of your job to ensure your viewers are accurately informed. I mean, Jason does this a lot in broadcasts. So those, Nick, are the 5 points that Mike Woitala makes. You have thoughts?
I think he nailed it.
Yeah.
I think that part of the issue is that when you are behind a mic and you are broadcasting anything, right? There's ego involved. For you to get behind a microphone and say, I am going to tell you, the audience, what's going on. And I need you to believe what I'm saying because I am an authority figure. For something to go wrong on your end and say that's a clear foul, that was a foul that absolutely should have been called, and then you go back and you have this thing in Dolby Vision playing back to you that clearly shows no, it was not a foul and the ref made the right call. It is incumbent upon you to say, you know what, I got that wrong. And we don't want to do it because our ego's involved. And our ego says, the minute I admit that I'm wrong on something, the audience is going to give up on me. And they're going to say that I'm not a reliable narrator of what's happening. And that's false. I'm sorry, it is. And I think Jason does that really well. I think Mike does that really well. I'm in my infancy in this world, and I do my best to try to admit when I'm wrong. But at the same time, I understand that I have an antiquated view of what a foul should be in the defensive third of a game. I understand that because I grew up watching Serie A in the prime, where unless you were getting a tibia broken, play on, and it's just not the way the modern game's played. And it's on me as the dinosaur to evolve, or I go extinct. And that's on me to do. That's not on the league to change. That's not on that's not on the fan base to change. It's merely because nostalgia is the last refuge of a person with no hope. And I am hanging on to this nostalgic view of what defending should be. And if I'm going to announce games, if I'm going to commentate, I have to make sure that I'm in step with the modern game. And if I can't do it, then I need to step back and let people who are in touch with the modern game do the job. And I think that that's what people like Lawless, who takes his little wrestling heel persona way too far, doesn't do. I think that Taylor Twellman, puts himself so far out over the skis that he won't allow himself room to do that. So then he spends the next 20 minutes after a call trying to gently, switch back and double back and, but all while trying to save face instead of saying, guys, I think I got that wrong. What am I doing here? Just don't put yourself so far out over the skis. But that's on us as commentators, man. It's on us as opinion havers to get out there and admit when we're wrong, because otherwise, we're the problem. And I think that's part of the issue with the refs today is they know they're going to get nuked by us idiots with the microphone in front of us. So it's on us as well.
So Bart, are all of us TV commentators idiots? Do we need to ref a match?
Yeah. Well, again, look, I think that there are I know there are 17 laws of the game. About 8 of them aren't really necessary to understand fouls, and not like the first 7, 8 are about what the field looks like and how many players should be on a team.
except in the Bronx, yes.
Yeah. Or if you're DC. Still not sure how that one happened, but look, there's 17 laws of the game. It's not a very long rule book, to put it mildly. And again, you can skip. I mean, you don't need to read about the field of play, the ball, and all that kind of stuff. That's not relevant. But well, it is relevant to me. But anyway, you can just read it and understand what the laws say, right? I mean, we talk about this. I talk about this a lot when I'll be refereeing a game and a kid puts a foot high in the air, and I get parents on the sidelines yelling, "High kick!" That is nowhere in the laws of the game. It falls under playing in a dangerous manner. It possibly falls under kicking an opponent, but both of those require other things to happen, right? The act of putting your foot in the air does not equal a high kick. You have to be playing in a dangerous manner, which requires most of the time another player to also be involved. It could be kicking. If you make contact with the person, then we've got a direct free kick foul. But if putting your foot high in the air was a infraction alone, we wouldn't have bicycle kick goals.
Right.
So, again, just slightly reading the laws of the game, understanding what things fall under, what actions are allowed, what aren't. That is the first step, I think, should be in commentators understanding what referees are going through.
All right.
Some of them maybe do it. I don't know.
Yeah, some maybe.
I've done it. I've refed a couple of games before, just especially when Jack was younger, and a ref, I missed a start or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even as everyone on the sideline knew, all the family members knew that this is just some dad coming in to make sure the game can be played, and I still got yelled at.
Yep.
Oh, come on. What? And I looked at the parent. I'm like, dude, if you want, come on out. Like, yep. I'll go take my seat. No. And then they get quiet really quick. But it is an extraordinarily difficult job. And I wish the cartoon characters who have TV contracts understood this. That they and look, I salute Lawless for going and getting his ref license and actually trying to do the job. I wish he would shut the hell up from his wrestling heel persona. But it is a difficult damn job. And I make jokes all the time about trying to pay off refs, during games. But it is,
it's the Italian in you.
It is. Look, we try to. We have a history, man. But we have a reputation to uphold. But
well, if you were Greek, you'd bring a gun onto the field. So at least you're going about it in a slightly more ethical way.
Exactly. Yes. But I will say that there are some refs who, when they announce who it's going to be, automatically it's like, oh, Jesus Christ, because we know it's coming.
Yeah.
Right. And so those are the ones where if you have something that's identifiable, and you are not actively working to make that, that problem go away and or fix the issue, I don't know what you can do. And as many times as, Ted Uncle, who I refer to as Drunk Uncle, because of some of his inconsistent calls, I'm glad they go back and watch games, but I really need somebody sitting with them and being like, and this is where you shouldn't have swallowed your whistle.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm saying too, Nick. Is like, I think that is what the next step pro needs to do is, and the problem is this also requires like qualified and experienced referees to help train as well, because, and we're not there yet. We're just not there yet. As a nation that's still developing soccer players and the way that they need to be, playing soccer, we're still developing referees, and that is it's a shortage because we just don't have that many people who are knowledgeable enough about the game with the experience and dedication to do it.
Yeah. And if you're reffing kids games nowadays, you have to be like a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu purple belt to protect yourself from some of these idiots who are who drove in a car for 2 hours to get to a tournament. And it's something that has to be addressed.
Yeah, it causes a lot of problems, and there's a whole lot that we could talk about. But
We'll have a
we
separate
should-
show for that.
Yeah,
That's
it
separate
really could be.
episode.
It really
No,
could be.
one thing I will say, we've been doing this, like soccer has been going on in this country for a very, very long time. It has not been at this level at all until 1994.
Thank
And
you.
and
Yes.
1994 is a blink compared to what Serie A, you know, because the Prem is not exactly terribly old, but like the top flight English game,
Top of the British pyramid, yes.
Ligue 1, La Liga, all these teams, all these federations rather, they've been doing this like Milan, on Milan's crest. It says 1899.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
MLS like 94.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I don't think people really comprehend the absolute insane growth. This is like Barry Bonds level growth. Like, oh God, how in the hell did they get this big this quickly? We are going to have and with this level of growth comes growing pains. And we're, part of this, if you've done any sort of operations work in any sort of corporate environment, the good operations people identify faults and weaknesses quickly. And the fault and weakness in this league right now is the fact that we do not have a steady stream of competent, stable, and consistent officials from the youth game to the top. And the problem is us, the audience, because we give these kids so much grief. They walk away from what should be a very easy payday, an easy way to earn cash. We chase them out, but it's a growth. It is the growing pain right now in this country is a lack of officials. We're getting better on coaching. Resources are more readily available for people to learn. We've always had talent, but now we're finding new and better ways to get this talent exposed. As we see kids getting shipped off to Germany to ply their trade. The same in England, same in Italy, and this is tremendous growth. We've only been doing this since 1994, and that doesn't get discussed enough.
And Nick, to kind of build on that, because there's comments about like, oh, well, this needs to be in place quicker and all this. Okay, I agree. In 1996, the league started, right? That's the timeline for that, I guess. The first academy came out in the mid 2000s, almost a decade, 15 years later for some clubs that were founding clubs of this league. An academy, something integral to developing soccer nationwide and for the clubs and for the league. So if it took us that long to even get that process and system in place, that's still, by the way, that's still a fairly quick timeline when you consider, again, like you said, the blink of an eye. The referee development, which is not controlled by MLS clubs and is controlled by US Soccer, which is doing 18 other things as well, it is going to take time. And it's the unfortunate, and because the other thing is these referees, it takes a lot longer for them to become good referees, right? If you're in the academy system and you start at 12, 13, whatever it is, depending on the academy. Okay, so in 6 years, you might be a first team player. I can tell you this right now, if you start at 13 as a referee, which you can, you're not refereeing MLS matches for another 20 years. So,
yep.
And that's if you stay with it and go through all the processes at an expedited pace. So we all agree the refereeing needs to improve. It is improving. I promise you it's improving. I promise you. Look at what Ismail Elfath did at the World Cup this past year. He was very highly regarded by FIFA, okay? It's improving. But it's going to still take time, and I'm sorry.
Yep.
We do have I do have a national team question before you go.
Well, we play tomorrow. We play our best friends from south of the border, who, by the way, I saw Rob Us retweet that he quote tweeted Felipe Cardenas, who said, "Stop me if you've heard this before. The Mexico coach is under hot water." And Rob jokingly said, "Wow, they're going to fire 2 coaches before the U.S. hires 1." So that's the state of things right now as we head into the Nations League.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have one rhetorical question, and then I guess a logistics question. What are you up to in the 9 o'clock half hour on Friday morning?
Well, let's see when I wake up, John.
Okay,
It'll be a long night.
Yeah,
but I should be available if you want to talk Nations League.
I do
on Friday.
Yes, because we need to talk more before they kick us out of the cabin here at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. But why was DeAndre Yedlin picked ahead of Brooks Lennon?
BJ Callahan is the assistant to the interim who has never been a head coach before, and whose role in all the processes before becoming the interim head coach was to assist Greg Berhalter and Anthony Hudson in game modeling, in scouting, and to some extent player selection. He is not experienced at picking a squad like this. He just isn't. Obviously, he's been an assistant for a long time, and so he has been part of those processes and part of that input. But this roster is very much BJ Callahan picking the guys that he knows and trusts. DeAndre Yedlin, Aaron Long, Christian Roldan. These are guys that have nothing to offer the U.S. men's national team in this cycle, in my opinion. But they have been a part of this, and so BJ picked them.
Just checking. It's just it looks like, and we were trying to figure out a question from Ricky Ricardo about a Johnny Fortune, who I guess is now Jay Fortune, going to be on the Gold Cup squad for Trinidad and Tobago.
He was on the squad for the prelims, so now that they're officially in the Gold Cup proper because Nicaragua fielded an ineligible player for 5
minutes.
Yes, he's on the squad. Unfortunately, now we miss him for more time. It was guaranteed to miss him only for the prelims, which may or may not have actually affected his play in MLS. But now we're missing him for at least 3 matches, which kind of sucks. Yeah. Thanks, MLS.
Yeah, well, and once again, you're getting Ozzy Alonso back, and there's going to be a chance to keep an eye on both. Be a chance to keep an eye on Cobb at the back to help things out there as well. So it'll be a very, very interesting process with the youngins and some guy named Caleb Wiley too. It'd be very, very interesting to see how teams navigate all this stuff. So, all right, Bart, final thought from you about anything in particular before we go.
Yeah, look, I think that the reports yesterday from Doug McIntyre that two things that were reported. One, Southampton let Matt Crocker go early to kind of actually become and start being full-time the sporting director for U.S. Soccer. That's a big plus. That is probably the reason why the report came out, same article by Doug, that we have supposedly talked to 10 or more candidates for this coaching job. Interviewed was the term, right? Interviewed. Now, we've all been through an interview process for corporate jobs. That could be that there was an initial conversation. It could be that they got multiple interviews down the line.
Yeah.
I think that is a big positive. And though it has been confirmed that U.S. Soccer talked to, 30 plus people before somehow landing on Greg Berhalter, the fact was that they only reportedly interviewed 2 managers. So the fact that we have interviewed 10 managers from lots of different backgrounds is a big plus. I think that is one thing that we can say that is different about this managerial search. I know it's taken a long time. I am also getting tired of that. But I think that is good. I think some of the names are good. I mean, Hugo Perez, if he's actually been interviewed, that's a fantastic look. Again, Patrick Vieira, I think, would be a great shout. Thierry Henry's one.
Yep.
Pellegrino Matarazzo is another one who, Luis Enrique, which I'm not quite sure would be a great manager for the U.S. national team, but hey, he would be fun to have in press conferences. those are good names, and that's a good thing.
And also on the board, the discussion that's out there being floated, the 3GB and Las Águilas, Club America.
I am curious, but I think we struggle with U.S. managers in the Premier League or other leagues in Europe getting doubted from the moment they're hired.
I choke and freak out, but that's another thing.
I can't imagine how the Mexican fans will respect. Granted, he beat them every time, 3 times in a row. So I don't know. Maybe that'll give him some respect, but that would be fun.
Nick, final thought from you before we.
It's silly season. Check your sources.
Mm-hmm.
Check accounts that the name is spelled correctly, especially in this magical blue check world that we live in now. Don't believe everything you see. Do some due diligence on, what you're retweeting and getting emotionally invested in. But outside of that, it's silly season. It's silly as fun. So enjoy the idiocy. It's okay to enjoy this level of idiocy. There's too much other stupid things happening in the world. So just enjoy silly season for what it is. It's a reality show gone haywire.
Yes, absolutely true. And hopefully if Bart is awake, he'll come and join us again, 9:00 half hour on Friday morning to talk about what happens on Thursday night, because it's going to be a late night for those who are watching the U.S. and Mexico. So that is a show, and thanks for hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow at normal time, 9:05. And so we'll be going through everything. And also on Thursday night, remember, Atlanta United 2, Columbus Crew 2 from historic Crew Stadium. We will have that game on the network as well, pregame 15 minutes before kickoff with the Twos and Columbus on a Thursday, 8:00 once again early. So us out, and that's when we head back to Atlanta for all of about 25 minutes before the weekend kicks back in. So Bart, since you have never done this, I do not believe in the history of the show. Bart Keeler, send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all.
See, that wasn't that hard. That's good stuff. Since it's the end of the show, that means we get to do this. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, 9:05.